Hey everybody, it's Turn-Based Memories. Welcome back. We're doing what we usually do here. My co-host Mel has chosen to play Final Fantasy VIII for the first time. I played the game at release in 1999 on the PS1, and it's one of those nostalgic games for me. I was in my senior year of high school, and my dream was to be a Japanese schoolboy. In fact, that is still my dream. And the setting of FF8 let me live that dream a little bit. This is the game with the infamous draw and junction systems. It's also the first time that Hironobu Sakaguchi wasn't involved with the development. It was left to Yoshinori Kitase guys. What's Mel going to think of all their crazy ideas? What will he think about the schoolboy setting? Drawing magic and junctioning it to character parameters. The level scaling enemies, the soundtrack, the 2D backgrounds, and all those annoying teenagers. Is he gonna figure out how to break the game by playing Triple Triad? Is he going to find that one ability that an early game GF has that changes the entire game? You know which one I mean. Is he going to find out what the most OP move is and figure out how to pull it off consistently at any time? We'll find out. Now Mel is going to join me in conversation about his impressions of the opening, the garden, and the fire cavern test. That's all he's done so far. Let's see if he is as into it as I was back in the day. Hello everyone, welcome to the conversation segment of Turn-Based Memories. I'm here with my partner Mel. My co-host Mel. Hey dude, how's it going?
Hey, how you going? How you doing, partner?
Yeah, hey partner. Yeah, let's pretend
partner.
it's the cowboy partner and not the married partner. And I am the legendary Zoltan, making not legendary intros for you guys. Yay. So,
Boy.
As I said in the opening segment, we're here with Mel, and he's going to tell us all about how he felt about Final Fantasy VIII now that he's finally started playing it for basically the first time. Go ahead and remind the audience what your previous history with Final Fantasy VIII is, Mel.
Sure. So I guess it probably was over 10 years ago now. Time flies. I bought a disc copy, a PS1 disc copy of Final Fantasy VIII because a friend of mine is a gigantic Final Fantasy VIII fan who more or less upsold me on the idea. And it was some years after he had done so that I was like, I remember him talking about this game, let me get it. And this was toward the tail end of, probably it was like early PS3 days when I still had a PS2. So I was using my PS2 to run these PS1 discs.
Games. Yeah.
And I got it off of, I don't know where I got it from, and I was very surprised it was 4 damn discs.
Yeah.
A gigantic clamshell case.
Yeah.
I think it's the only PS1 physical disc I own.
Oh, wow.
And I must have played probably up to about where I'm at now, as you'll discover where I'm at. And that would have been over or close to 10 years ago. That's all I have, other than what details I remember my friend gushing to me about.
I see.
That I don't recall because he was just going on and on and on.
Yeah, you don't know what he's talking about until you play yourself, right? So
yeah, it was hard to visualize what he meant. I mean, some of it I understood, but he was definitely in love with the game, and this would have been well before then, so this is when we were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He would just go in gym class, he would just go on and on about this game.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the cool thing about when you're in high school and you find the thing that you love. Even when people don't want to hear about it, you go on and on about it anyway. So that's awesome. Okay, and I should probably say my position without any spoilers or anything, of course, but I think this might be the first game I ever bought on launch day. I don't believe I pre-ordered it, but I think I knew when the launch date was, and I think I went out and bought it that same day. I lived in Hawaii, and I did have a job because I was a senior in high school, so I had some free time. So I went ahead and got a job at Taco Bell, of all places.
All right.
I really enjoyed it, to be honest. So yeah, and so I had some money, so I went and I bought that, and man, I actually really, really enjoyed it for a bunch of reasons, but I'm not supposed to give you my opinions yet. This is all about what you felt first. So I guess, let's say before we get into the details here, this is our first time doing this show, Turn-Based Memories, in this format, because Mel has only played up to the Fire Cavern, and we're already talking about this game, where in all the previous episodes, we finished a whole game and then talked about it in a, I suppose you could say, a bit of a bird's eye view, just because you can't get into too many details, just in one episode about a 60-hour game. But so we're trying this new format, and Mel has a diary that he kind of kept while playing. So we're going to listen to what he felt and what he did from his diary, and then I'm going to interject my opinions and ask questions from there. So definitely let us know if you guys prefer this multi-episode per game format over just one episode per game, because we need to know.
Yeah, hopefully this gives us a good reason to post more frequently on the Turn-Based Memories channel. If you're unaware, if you're a new subscriber, for instance, we have a second channel where we do a semi-weekly news show about JRPG and role-playing game news in general. That's more frequently updated because that's much easier to do, and it's something we do in between producing these episodes.
Yeah.
But hopefully this will give us a reason and an ability to post here more frequently where we have more subscribers.
Definitely.
So,
this is the more important content in my opinion as well. I mean, if you like news,
I agree.
Yeah, if you like news, definitely go enjoy Dude JRPG News channel. But we're mainly here because we want to talk about some nitty-gritty JRPG stuff, and in this case, in this case, the question is, does Mel's experience reflect on mine, is similar to mine, or am I being just nostalgic and, remembering back when I was in high school?
How has the game aged for someone who has never really played it when it was new? And I'm playing it truly for the first time now, and Zoltan hasn't touched this, I assume, since the last time he's played it, which I don't know when that would have been.
Pretty long time ago, yeah. I did mess around with the opening maybe 4 months or so ago, but that's about it. Just the opening.
When's the last time you finished it?
Oh, man. Don't even remember when it was.
Yeah,
I have finished it multiple times, though.
Sure.
I'm very, very familiar with the game, so it's not going to be just you explaining things and then me thinking oh, that was just an ethereal dream that I can remember thing. It's not going to be that.
Right.
I actually remember a lot of details.
All right. So that, I think, is the groundwork there.
Yep. And so let's not make this intro any longer and tell us what happened when you first turned on. Oh, what did you play it on? That's important. A little bit.
Okay, yes. So I played it on the most recent Steam version.
Okay.
That came out
FF8
2 years ago, roughly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually called that. I think it's just called Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay.
But it is the most. It is a form of a remaster. Yes.
It's the one where they actually went and made the character models upgraded, right? But not the backgrounds. Isn't it that one?
I think the issue is that the character models do pop out of the background a lot more, but everything has been up-resed.
That's right. So
go ahead.
Yeah, the reason that it happens. So if you go out on the world map, probably your character and the world map pop out roughly the same. But when you go into any area, the backgrounds are all those 2D painting type of things. I mean, I hear that those are made actually.
Backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. I hear that those are actually made in 3D, and then they just kind of take a snapshot of it, sort of.
Right.
But the resulting thing is basically just a picture, 2D picture, like a big ass JPEG, really. And so upping the resolution and all that stuff doesn't really help those look any better than they are. But your characters look way brighter and better, so there's a massive standout there. And so, so this is definitely the FF8 remaster that you played, I believe, then?
Right. Yeah, it is. And I'm using a Xbox One controller, so I'm not using the keyboard and mouse. And I touch on that in my segment here. So I guess I'll get into it, right?
Yeah. So what happened when you turn on the game?
All right. So, well, let's go right through what we have here.
Okay.
I have a diary that I wrote, like you were saying, and I split it up into days. So day one, day two, etc. We're going to go through day
Oh, that's cool.
up to day two.
Okay. So day one.
And every day, quote unquote, will be essentially a play session
Hmm.
or a segment of play that constitutes enough information for us to go over. So I'm going to read from that now, and feel free to jump in if I say anything you want to comment on. All right.
Hmm.
So, day one, Dear Diary.
Yes.
The PC port of this game is a little janky.
Oh.
Yeah, the controller support is all there, but for some reason, the game assumes you're using the keyboard and isn't capable of labeling the button inputs as anything other than a list of generic names, like B1, B2, B3, etc., for everything. So the
Huh.
game tells me press B3. I have to generally assume what they mean. It wasn't
Hmm.
too hard to deal with, but I did get stuck in a button rebinding menu, unable to hit the usual cancel button, as they kept registering my input instead of actually canceling the menu. It turns out I needed to press in the right analog stick.
Dude, this is the best freaking journal entry anybody's ever read.
Once the controls were out of the way, I immediately began to see how much more of a prestige feeling Square, not yet Square Enix, was going for after the success of Final Fantasy VII. The
Hmm.
blending of FMV sequences with real time rendered graphics, pre rendered backgrounds that would turn and come alive in a cinematic way, was all very impressive. Games using similar tech at the time, like the old Resident Evil games, never pulled anything off like this.
Hmm.
Despite the age of the effects, I remained impressed.
Okay, so this is a great. We're doing exactly what the show was supposed to do. Where I'm like
Mm,
remembering exactly what I felt when I first played the game.
mm,
Exact same opinion I had because I remember I played FF7 first, and I was impressed by like the FMV scenes where for example the weapon comes. I forget which weapon it was, but like maybe Emerald weapon or something comes and attacks Junin, and Junin shoots it with a bunch of their cannons and stuff, and Diamond Weapon comes out and is stomping all around. I remember all those scenes, and they were really impressive. But when FF8 came out, it was like totally blowing those out of the water because,
yes.
yeah, I mean, of course, just they did look higher fidelity in a way, but also like it was a little bit more my type just in general because there were a lot of scenes of robotic parts moving, which I really liked.
Mm,
You haven't seen many yet, maybe not any yet, but there'll be
right.
some of those. And also another thing that you can look forward to is actually probably already happened once. During some of those FMV scenes and the camera even is moving, you can still run around as Squall and move around a little bit, and that
Right.
also impressed
Right.
me.
Yeah. This is like the early roots of what I was calling in the entry here, this prestige gaming, where built into the presentation of the game is intended to be this feeling of, whoa, look at this presentation.
Yeah.
And you could tell they were trying to flex and show off by showing you something you've seen in a game many times before and being like, but now we can do this. Now we can turn the camera on this clearly pre rendered image as this rendered character model walks off into the distance. So they're side by side with this FMV character model that you are aware is an FMV model, and this 3D character model walking away as quick as her walks away in the distance, and the camera turns and the FMV models remain next to her. It all looks
Yeah,
really impressive and cinematic in the way
definitely.
I was like, whoa, PS1? Oh, okay.
Totally. Yeah.
And there's a lot of sweeping camera angles and just dramatic camera angles on the static pre-rendered shots
Yeah.
that give it this more realistic, grounded, less of a diorama feel that was in FF7,
Mm-hmm.
where you had these sort of, abstracted versions of like the bar, or other areas that you ran around in. You always got the impression, well, it's not exactly what it looks like, but this is what the game is showing you.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as tall as this, but
Right.
in FF8, everything is to scale when you're in town.
Yeah.
And it all looks very grounded and real at like the ground level. It's very
Mm.
what's the word? Immersive.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. I agree. And as long as we're talking about graphics, the whole graphics of just the garden itself, I love that they use that really distant, far away camera angle, and you can run around that huge hallway. And
Yeah.
yeah, I found that really immersive too. And being even now, if I were to play it again, I think I'd still feel the same way. But back then, I was in high school, so I was like, dude, that's me running in there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely intended to be an audience surrogate, Squall is. And yeah, the presentation, I could tell what they were trying to do very much. The intro on the beach, like the intro FNV, where like the words
Yeah,
are popping up
on the
on the
screen.
screen and you
Yeah,
get that famous song
that's right.
playing right off the bat. I didn't realize that was like the first damn thing you hear. I'm like, oh, they're gonna go right into it. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, that was all very cool. I'm not a big fan of games where they show you an FMV that has no context.
they
Where it's
did
like,
that,
who the
did
hell
they?
is this? Or what's going on here? And these are all shots from later in the game where I know if I come back and watch this after I finish the game, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is a cutscene from 20 hours or so.
Yeah,
I don't know who anyone is. I don't know what's happening. I don't know, the importance of anything here. But it's all meant to impress you, and it's almost like a trailer,
totally.
and give you this feeling of this is the top line role playing game. We're
Yeah,
the Final Fantasy VII guys,
it says
and
right on this.
here's the next one.
Yeah, I mean they totally put the name of the game on the screen during that. I don't mean at the end when we get to the title screen. I mean during that scene, freaking like Squall is grabs the sword when it's in the ground, and as soon as he puts his hand on the hilt, freaking it appears on the screen. Final FF8 it says, and it's like, whoa, they're trying to make me play this game even though I already bought it.
Yeah, it's like they just took the attract sequence that they had playing in game stores and were like, fucking put that at the front.
Oh
Here
yeah.
you go. Uh, yeah, so very impressive. Let me move on to my next paragraph here.
Okay.
All right. Once I gained control, I spent a whole lot longer reading through tutorial text than I was anticipating at
Oh.
the student terminal in the lecture hall. I walked away from it not nearly as informed as I felt I should be.
Uh-oh.
It was just a lot. Like and the other problem was a lot of the tutorial was kind of circular. Like it would reference itself a lot and be like there were 3 or 4 versions of the tutorial in that one screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long it's been since you actually looked at it, but
Forever.
there
Yo.
was a lot of layers to this tutorial, and it's not like I'm not a newbie here. I understand what role playing games are generally trying to do, but it was all quite a lot of menus. And I still wasn't familiar at that time with the junction or the draw system. So I was like, I know this is a thing. I know I need to know it. I hope they're not relying on me knowing it now.
So I know that you can go in there and there's a lot of stuff in that terminal that you can
I
access.
looked at all of it.
Yeah. So did you also go look at all the tutorial stuff? Like what's in there? Like the garden festival?
Yeah, there's
committee?
like a garden festival where it's like someone's like, I retired. Sorry, I fucked it up. Bye. Like, there's nothing here yet. And so I assume either there will be something there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, student affairs, everyone likes hot dogs.
Oh man, yeah.
Apparently hot dogs. I guess they were like, what's an American thing? Hot dogs? All right.
Yeah, maybe that was the influence. It's just Americans like hot dogs.
Yeah. What do American kids like? Hot dogs, right? Yeah. Say they all like hot dogs.
I hadn't even thought that they might be putting hot dogs in specifically to to appeal to the
I
American
think
audience.
so.
But
I
yeah,
think this
maybe you're
whole
right.
game was a big appeal to the West.
Hmm.
That was the intention.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
So you
so
don't really
let me
feel
move
like
on here.
you don't really feel like you know much about the battle system yet, huh?
Not at this point,
Right.
or whatever the hell they were trying to communicate. I was like, this is a lot. So let me move on. Is where I was like thinking at the time. All right, so now after some running around the garden school campus for a bit, visiting each location and the ring-shaped facility, I finally ended up at the training grounds.
Hmm.
It seemed a little early to be here, but in I went anyway. I fought my first battle against a plant monster. Things were sluggish, and I
Hmm.
mean that like game speed wise, as maybe I should have expected. The draw mechanic seemed to make sense. I stocked up on some sleep and silence spells, neither of which worked on the enemy, of course.
Oh.
Killed the plant monster and moved on. And I found a save point, and thankfully I saved and found myself fighting a very large goddamn T Rex.
Oh, it happened. You found the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the first area.
Yes. Yes,
Awesome.
sir. I had drawn some blizzard spells from a draw point right before the fight, which did a lot of damage, but apparently not enough.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, just not enough. My low health triggered my limit break abilities, but not being able to read the input button prompts meant I had no
Oh.
idea how to make him do any extra damage.
Oh no.
Now, the next part of this is even funnier. I say here, I'm pretty sure I did less damage with this attack, the limit break, than the normal blizzard spell.
Oh.
Despite having been told how to escape from battles by holding down two buttons, I didn't know which two buttons because nothing is labeled clearly.
Oh,
So I
man.
died. And thankfully, like I said, I saved. And that was the end of my day one play session. I was like, oh, all right, let's take a break.
That's
Now,
hilarious that the first day was you walked into
Yeah.
the training center and got eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes.
That's kind of a good memory if I think about it. It didn't happen to me, but if it had happened to me, I'd be like, dude, that was
I
amazing.
tried. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to die here. Let me use all the blizzard spells I have stocked, and let me use up all my potions to keep healing, because he wasn't hitting me for that much.
Huh.
The only problem was I was only hitting him for about 40 damage. And after smacking him a bunch with the blizzard spells, I was like, I bet this guy has like thousands of HP, and this is just going to take forever.
It's up there,
So, yeah, it's probably up there.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you think of of the layout of the garden and all the different areas that you can go in there?
I think it's nice. I think it's a really easy to understand overworld for primary location. That's usually a problem when you first start a game. You're like, where the hell do I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big circle. Everything's in one part of the circle. Everything's labeled. There's
That's
a
nice,
map
yeah.
that you kind of have to see because you're like showing a girl how to get around.
Yeah.
And it's all a pretty good excuse for getting acclimated to the area. So
you chose
pretty good area.
You chose to show her around, huh?
Yes, I did.
Because you can choose not
get-
to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I get the impression the game is going to be full of little choices like that because I've already been presented with a bunch here and there, little ones. So that was day one. So let's get on to day two, and then we'll probably get through this one a little quicker, or maybe not.
Okay.
So yes, day two, dear diary. I loaded up my save point right before the T-Rex and immediately ran back to where I came. I fought a few more plant monsters, got lost, and found the T-Rex again.
Oh no!
This time, I pressed on pretty much every button and discovered the magic combo. In this case, is the start and select button
To run
in order
away?
to run from battles.
You have to hold select and start. Jesus, man.
Yeah. So on the Xbox controller, they don't call them start and select. They're like menu and whatever. I don't know. They don't even have words.
But they're
it's
in the middle of-
equivalent of
Yeah.
it's the equivalent of start and select.
They're in the placement of where start and select would be, right?
Correct.
That
Correct.
feels weird.
It is, and I'm glad I found it because I would have died again. So I found I ran the training room is a loop. I didn't realize that. So I ran away from a few more battles, and then I ran away from that one with the T-Rex, of course. and I wound up back at the garden campus to find Quittis at the entrance so I could advance the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Quittis thankfully reran me through most of the tutorials I browsed when I first booted up the game. This time, it all made a little bit more sense. We left to the overworld and to the fire cavern to the east. This game is from the era of large, abstracted overworlds, something I really miss in old JRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
So east I went, and then another tutorial, and then a little bit more clarity on that tutorial. Some men at the entrance of the cave asked me for some reason how long I wanted for a time limit for this trial.
Yep.
I was pre-qualifying for some exam to become a child mercenary, I just remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I picked 20 minutes, the second shortest option. I then realized the time keeps ticking down even in menus and during dialogue and during the very slow combat animations.
Yep.
So I then began to get a little worried. I quickly increased the combat speed to maximum because it was not at max when I started. And I left the A2B setting at wait, even though that didn't seem to matter. Nothing appeared to be waiting for me during the menu selections.
So I think probably the way that works is that I think in maybe FF6 and FF7 were the same. Chrono Trigger is definitely the same, where it doesn't wait until you get into a menu. So if once your turn pops up, they don't wait then. If you go into the magic menu and you're thinking about what spell to cast, that's when they stop moving. But if you're on the outermost menu,
I tried. I thought I was doing that because I remember that too from other games where the A2B is like wait or active, and I usually do pick wait. And no, I remember getting attacked while picking things.
Huh?
So
Okay, I'm not sure then.
maybe it's bugged in this version of the game. I don't know, but not that big a deal. I'll be able to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. My next little section here. As I worked my way through the fire cavern, drawing new magics, I now realize that the combat targeting is very awkward. The camera's positioning determines what way you need to push to select your target, and that little white glove hovering next to the enemy or your party members easily gets lost in the chaos of combat, especially when things keep moving around because they're not waiting.
That's a good
So
point.
when a little bomb is like hovering around and it goes in to attack you, the little glove follows it. So I'm like, wait, what am I targeting? What am I selecting? I want to draw from this guy, not that guy, or whatever. Now, at this point, actually, I do have a question, and I don't mind getting the answer.
Okay.
Is there a limit to how many spells you can draw from an enemy?
You can draw No, you can draw as many as you want from the enemy, and you can hold up to 100 of one spell.
You can hold 100, but I wasn't sure if like the enemy had a finite stock that you were
infinite,
and also infinite. All right, so that answers my other question. You can't like remove their spells by drawing them from.
No, you can't. That's whoa. You're making cool ideas now, dude.
I mean, I immediately was like, oh, I bet I'm removing. It's like almost like draining MP because this game doesn't have MP. I was like, I bet I'm draining their stock and adding it to my own, right? And no, I didn't think so because I drew a whole bunch. I was like, this seems like it's probably infinite.
So did you go ahead and grind it and like just grind up to 100, or how much drawing did you do?
No, but I drew a bunch of ones that I thought were useful, like Scan and Cure and Blizzard, because one enemy in there had Blizzard. And I was like, I bet I need this.
Yeah.
So I drew a bunch of those extra before I killed those enemies. Not like a ton, but maybe I got up to 25. So a bunch. Because you get like 4 or 9 between that many a pop. It's not hard to do. So yes, let's see, where am I?
You're about to meet the boss, so.
Right, exactly. So I moved on, drawing some Blizzard spells, which I knew not to waste, and then I found Ifrit. I beat him rather easily, with maybe 5 minutes or so left on the clock. All my Blizzard spells and summoning Shiva made it pretty simple.
Okay, you figured out summoning Shiva. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. I got that far as the tutorials go. The countdown stopped, thankfully, and I gained Ifrit as a new GF. And then I got the GF tutorial and made my way out of the cave. So it's here where I kind of realized how more about how the GFs kind of function
Mm-hmm.
and the way you level them up and tell them what skill to learn. And
Yeah.
there was kind of a lot going on where it's like, oh, they have a big role to play in the combat. It's not just a summon.
No, it's not
Uh,
just a summon. So
right.
when you summoned her, while you're doing the summoning, you choose to summon her, and then over the name Squall appears the name Shiva,
Right.
and like
Counts
a
down.
gauge counts down until she's gonna finally arrive and do her attack. And
Uh-huh.
during that time, did Squall or whoever you equipped it on get attacked?
Not that I recall. I had Quittis have
Have Shiva,
Shiva attached,
and you don't think
and
she got
she's the one.
attacked while summoning?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Maybe she did.
so that means
But
you didn't notice. I think there's a really interesting mechanic here where during that time, if you get hit, you don't take damage. Shiva takes the damage, and
oh,
she has HP. It's like an amount of HP, so she could get killed by a really strong attack, which is interesting.
damn.
Yeah,
Or shield and attack. Now, if they die, what happens?
I don't remember. It almost never happened to me.
Huh,
Um,
interesting.
but I think there are items you can use. Like I think there's something called a G returner, which is like a Phoenix down for
Okay.
for Guardian forces.
Yeah.
I don't know if sleeping at an inn brings them back or not. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that because it rarely ever happened to me.
I
And I
don't think
can't
I
remember.
noticed. I probably just didn't see it, but I don't think I noticed an HP value on these guys. But I may just not have noticed. I may have overlooked it.
Well, it's just your HP value becomes
Oh,
their HP value. It turns to their HP value. I think the number actually did change, but like it doesn't look any different. I don't think so.
but I
That's
mean, like in the menus, like can you not review like
you
Shiva
can,
has
yeah.
this HP? Oh,
I
okay, all
I
right,
thought they had an HP value if you go into the section called GF and you're looking at each
right.
one individually. I thought it showed their HP separately in there.
You're probably right. I just didn't. I wasn't looking for it
In
because I
fact,
still didn't
mm,
know what I was doing.
yeah, there must be because there's an ability that every GF has called GF HP plus 10%. So that's a thing.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, that makes sense.
yeah. So you
So I
noticed
make a couple
about
comments here about it in the last section here.
okay.
All right. So, on my way back to the garden, I now had several new spells, some better idea of how to use them with the junction system, as well as how the GFs play a role in your stats and your abilities. I had no idea the GFs would determine so broadly how your characters perform in battle, and I can't recall another Final Fantasy game where the summons played such a central role in combat so early in the game, at least. I
Hmm.
could definitely see how they were trying to experiment with the Final Fantasy formula here, and I could also see how, by this point in many players' experience, is when things probably began to turn. Setting magic, drawing it, and maintaining your GS is a lot more management work than the previous Final Fantasy games required, certainly Final Fantasy VII. And if you weren't paying attention, it probably still didn't make a lot of sense to some players.
Hmm.
And even for those who did get it, I would imagine it just wasn't what people wanted. But I knew well in advance what this game was and that it was different. So we'll have to see how that carries me going forward. And that's the end of day 2.
Interesting. So I guess the important question here is how much did you check out the junctioning in your menu? Did you put
I
some
got
spells on?
enough of a look at it, yeah. So because they do explicitly run you through the junctioning for your GFs and for the magic, and I understood that if you junction a spell to a stat that your GF allows you to junction it to, and then you keep drawing those spells to boost that stat,
Yeah.
you're getting a big buff, and then you probably don't want to cast from that stock
Right?
so that you don't debuff yourself essentially.
Hmm.
And now you're kind of locking up this spell in limbo and not able to use it. So you kind of have to pick a spell that you might not want to use
I
or
guess so.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you're just going to lower your stat if it's important. At this point in the game, I wasn't getting enough of a stat boost to be like, wow, I can't touch this spell anymore.
Yeah.
But I could imagine it getting to that point.
Yeah,
Also,
it
something
does.
that I should probably reveal that I am already aware of is that I know the enemies level with you.
You know that. Okay. Did you
I
know that
do. I
before or?
coming into the game, yes.
Okay. Yes.
I knew that from before, and it didn't quite click with me until this point why that meant some people were like, "Oh, you should like never level up in this game."
That's the
It's
reason.
because yeah, it's because you can gain stats through this junctioning system, and then the enemies stay at level 1 or whatever, and then your stat is like supposed to be attacking for levels, 10, 15, whatever.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how you get way beyond the power curves that you're intended to.
Totally.
Um,
It's
to me,
very
that sounds like
easy.
a lot of management, though. Like, how do you prevent leveling up?
Yeah, if you're gonna go that far, it is gonna be a lot of management. So there are some abilities that you're gonna go into your GF menu and you're gonna tell your GF, okay, I want you to learn this one next when you get the AP from the
Right.
battle. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
do you remember what you set, or did you set anything,
I
or did
think
you
I
leave it?
set some junction because it felt to me like the unlocking the junction slots was important.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, so you did check it out and you understood what that meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you get all those unlocked, then you can eventually, with just between like maybe two GFs, you could probably junction to every stat, which is pretty cool. 2 or 3 GFs maybe.
I didn't realize you could junction more than one GF to the same character until right toward the end. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you can, and there are a lot of GFs. So like, I don't remember the number. What is it?
Okay, so that makes sense.
More
If
than
there's a
12, I
lot.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so and you have 3 characters eventually in the battle party, so you could have like 4 on each person, right? And there you go. You can junction to every stat. Yeah, the way I always played was that I would draw the magic and junction it, and just use it as the stat increase, and then just freaking gunblade everything to hell. That was
But
how
what
I went
about your
about it.
other party? You have no magic users that you don't do this with? Like, generally?
I didn't create a magic user. I basically
Okay, so
yeah.
everyone was just doing melee attack, like
That's
standard attacks?
that's how I basically went about it. Yeah.
All right. Hey,
Um,
simple enough for me.
yeah, there were a couple really
I was
useful
using magic
spells.
a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could use whichever one you prefer, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So you're saying like how are you going to prevent enemies from leveling up or your characters from leveling up? One of the abilities you can set Quetzalcoatl to learn. It's a hard name. Is the card ability, which is an ability which you use it on an enemy, and they get turned into a playing card, which you can use for the right, which you can use for the card game, the card side game that they have in this, which I don't think you haven't touched yet. It seems like
No, it's called Triple Triad, right?
that's the one. Yeah, and it's
All
the
right.
more
Yeah, I've heard a
popular.
lot about it. I don't know how to play it, but I know people talk about it.
So you might. Did anybody give you a set of cards in the garden?
There's a guy who's like, yeah, he's like, oh, my friend gave me these and I don't
Okay.
like them.
Here you go. Right.
Here you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
you got like 7 cards or so that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could actually start playing cards anytime, and all you have to do is push. I guess since if the square button is the menu button, then I guess triangle button is the button to ask somebody if they want to play cards, which I think
Okay.
is. I love the idea that they gave that its own dedicated
own
button
button.
that you can walk up to anyone and say, "Dude, you want to play cards?" And some of them don't
Wow.
say no, but most of them say yes, yo.
Huh.
So
Is
check
this
that
the
out.
first game you recall where that is a thing?
That is well, whether I recall it or not, it is the first game where that is a thing. In Final Fantasy,
okay.
I mean. Yes.
Well, I mean in general. Have
Oh,
you seen
playing
another
cards in
game
general?
before that where you could walk up to any NPC and be like, "You want to play cards, or you want to play this minigame?"
I mean, the only games I remember really taking it that far where you could just talk to all kinds of people and play that game was this one, and I think FF9 you can play anybody as well.
Okay, but 8,
Maybe.
as far as the earliest example of this, you
Oh,
think
8
it
was
might
my
be
first
8?
time for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm only curious because this is like a sort of like a staple of the genre now.
So the thing about it is, yeah, when it came out, there are a lot of mixed reactions to it, right? A lot of people love it, and
Hmm.
in the beginning, I was the more stereotypical hardcore JRPG reaction guy. And so I was like, "What the hell is this crap? This isn't what
Before,
JRPGs are
yeah,
supposed to be." Um,
sure.
but eventually, I came to love it to death. Um, yeah, that's right. I guess the reason you asked is because we both know about Xenocard from Xenosaga, right?
I wasn't actually going to go there, but it was on my mind. I'm a little
Yeah.
surprised that you brought it up first.
Yeah, I can't remember. Could you just basically
Well,
challenge any random person, or was it only specific people?
nah, it was
Ah,
specific people in that
no, no,
game,
no. It
but
wasn't specific people. It was you would go onto that save point looking thing and play there, right?
oh, right, there was the EBS
The
plate
silver
that
one,
you would
yeah.
have to go into,
That's right.
and then yeah, then you could play cards against. I guess there were
People in
like
there.
people who were in there. You could spend hours in one match,
Not in one
or
match,
I
was it?
could. I could spend at least an hour resolving a single match.
Jesus
Those are
Christ.
long games.
So in this one is much shorter, so
Okay.
don't worry about that. Um, so
I mean,
yeah.
hey, I rented Xenosaga once just to play the card game. So
Oh
I think I'm
man,
okay.
that's awesome. Yeah. So the thing I think that makes this game, Triple Triad, eventually become really popular among a lot of people, completely setting aside how good the mini game itself is designed, just put that all aside. I'm pretty sure the main reason anybody cares about Triple Triad is because the prizes you win can be used in battle, and that's the
Mm,
whole magic of the card game.
mm.
You can instead, if you want, you could just play cards all the time and then just fight the bosses with what you got from there. Like you could do that. So
Wow.
consider it, Mel, if you want to. Yeah,
I feel like I won't be having very much choice. It seems pretty integral to the game. So you were saying that
it's not
the
required though at all.
Quetzalcoatl, well, you were saying that the Quetzalcoatl GF turns things into cards.
Yeah. So the ability is called Card, and that is a command skill or something. So that means that
Right.
after he learns it, you have to go into your menu and set it as one of your
Hmm.
4 battle options. Like, for
And then how
example,
does that stop you from leveling up?
that's when they turn into a card, you don't get experience from them after battle.
Oh,
That's how
but
that works.
you do get experience just for hitting them. The game goes out of its way to tell you that.
But if you, yeah, you do.
I guess if you don't kill them, you don't get more experience.
No, because if you card them, you don't get any experience. So I guess they just put that
Oh, so it
in
just
there.
totally nullifies
It
the
nullifies
entire
it, yeah.
experience.
If I remember
But they were
correctly.
saying before,
Hmm.
so that's weird. That's a little confusing because they were saying at one point in the tutorial, like, even if you hit the enemy and run away, you're going to
Yeah.
get experience.
That's a really good point. That is a thing they put in. And also, whoever makes the last hit gets
They get
more
more.
experience, a little bit more.
So, but transforming them into like a fucking Pokemon, that actually nullifies
The hits.
all the experience.
Yeah, I believe it
Interesting.
does. I believe it does. Going off memory here, but I
Okay,
believe
I'll have
that's
to try it.
how it works. Yeah, and
So then that's the way you keep your levels down.
yeah, and
Interesting.
I'll let you know before you get in there that the closer they are to death, the more likely it is to not
Yeah,
miss.
it's like Pokemon rules.
Okay, yeah. If you just like go in there and boom, card, it won't work.
It won't work.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So hit him a couple times and then do
Interesting.
it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my friend saying, "Wow, yeah, you're never supposed to level up in this game." And I don't know if that's true. I guess if you want to be overpowered and just like blow through the game, that seems like the strategy that you should do.
Yeah.
I
So
guess.
to be honest, I never did that because
Okay.
that sounds like a pain in the ass.
It does.
Right. I like the idea of low level playthroughs, but if like for example you're playing a game where everybody comes back to life after every battle, if they were dead and they come back with just 1 HP, I'm not gonna go into every battle waiting for them to die to take that hit. That's just too annoying. So this is one of those games where you'd have to like manage it somehow. if you wanted to have the lowest possible level. But I never did that. But there are some benefits if you don't want to play the card game and you just want to use, you want to actually just kill enemies or whatever. Even the regular enemies that you've already fought, I believe once they get up to like level, I don't know, 10 or 15, all their spells upgrade 1 tier. And once you get to level 30,
you can draw the better spells.
Yeah, so like that really basic, I can't remember what it's called, that little flying blue thing or whatever, or like those bite bugs that are out on the world map. Just they look like big flies. I think they have the fire spell at lowest level. Level up a little bit, and then they'll have the Fira spell. Level up to level 30, and then they'll have Firaga, and you can get that. And I don't believe any spells change after level 30. And the reason I just know this is because I had the guidebook back in the day, so that's why I know.
Gotcha. So they match your level exactly?
I believe they match I think it's the average of your battle party.
Ooh,
the average. So yeah, basically your average level exactly. And then so they are going to be stronger, but I mean, yeah, I guess the idea is that you're going to get better spells, but you don't get anything better spells from them beyond level 30. So maybe you don't want to level up past there. I don't know, but I never really cared about it. I did the draw grind, and I actually just every time I came to a new spell, I was okay, gonna get 99 of that, okay, or not 99, 100.
Yeah,
100 of that. Gotta get 100 of that, and then once Firaga comes, okay, I'll get rid of the old fire spells to make room. There is a limited number of different spells you can hold. I think it's 32 or so.
So you can't hold every spell in the game.
Not every spell in the game with one character, no.
So what did you do to get rid of your 99 or 100 fire spells? Did you cast it 100 times?
Oh, man. No, you can go into, what is that menu? Is it just the magic menu? I think there's a section called magic. You go in there and you can look at all your spells, and you can trade them in between the different characters. So like, okay,
right, I did that.
Okay, yeah. And if you push one of the buttons, you'd be like, discard all these, and you just put yes, and you can get rid of them. Yeah. So what do you think of that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know that you can basically cast their spells on them without stocking it, you know?
That's right. Yeah. And really the main appeal of that is when you come to like the end of the game and you're like fighting bosses one after another, and you don't want to sit there and, you know, oh, this guy has a new really powerful spell, but I don't feel like, you know, drawing 100 of it. So I'll just cast their one on them and see what it does. That's kind of really the only reason to do that. If they have a spell that's strong, but you don't care to collect
it.
Yeah. So the only other thing I wanted to ask you this early in the game is, what do you think of the setting? Because for me, the whole schoolboy setting is one of my all-time favorite settings. In Final Fantasy games, it's my favorite one. Like, I think I like Final Fantasy VIII's setting more than FF12's, even though I don't like the story and the details and the lore as much. I do like that stuff, but not as much as 12, because, you know, it got that one guy who was just really good at writing, right? And he put all those awesome little so
you're saying you like 12's a lot more?
I'm saying I like 12's like lore and stuff a lot more, but the setting itself of you being in that school is awesome to me. I freaking love it, the whole idea. And to be honest, I wish there was just a whole freaking game where you just hang out on that first island and in the garden, and there's all kinds of quests to do within the garden. I just want a game where you're just in the garden doing quests.
I bet we would have gotten that if Final Fantasy VIII was as much of a success as 7.
Oh, maybe, yeah. We're getting the Battle Royale of FF7, so yeah, maybe it would.
Hey, there you go. We're getting everything. I mean, how many FF7 games and properties have there been? Like over a solid dozen, I would say, by this point.
I don't know what the sales numbers were like, but I thought FF8 sold still really well, though. Did it not? I'd have to go back and check now.
I bet there's some key difference that just, you know, I'm sure FF9 sold very similar too.
I think actually 9 saw a drop, actually, if I remember correctly.
Oh, because it was too much of a throwback or something?
So what I think, I think differently about this than everybody else. Everybody thinks it's because the game is this. I don't think it's that. I think every time there's a drop, it's because of something from the previous game. So I think maybe
Oh,
because FF7 sold huge. I guess I'm gonna say FF7 sold huge mostly because of all that marketing is what I want to say. But
I see what
FF
you're saying.
yeah, but FF8 came out and I think it also had really good numbers. I can't remember if it was as much as 7, but it was still really good from what I'm remembering here. But then 9 had a drop, and I'm thinking 8
Because
was
of 8.
because 8 was even more divisive than 7, even more, right? Like there are a lot of people. Obviously 7 was the most popular one of all time,
True.
but there were a
Yeah,
lot
you're
of
right.
hardcore old school fans who were like, "This, I don't like
This is
this
not it.
setting."
Yeah.
Yeah, but 8 came out and it was kind of driving a lot of people crazy with the whole draw system. And you don't know about it yet, but there's a big love story in this game, and yeah, people weren't into that as much.
Hmm. To me, it feels like so. I'm still early enough in this game where I have a lot of my initial sort of framing in mind, where the story and the setting of the main character of 7 and 8 to me blended together a lot. Where it's
Huh?
like Squall and Cloud, certainly before I played 7.
Yeah,
But Squall and Cloud in my mind were like kind of the same dude,
yeah,
and their situation was kind of the same. Like they're both these like elite soldier in
yeah.
this
They are.
organization,
Hmm.
and a lot of their background seems to have to do with their participation in that organization and their
Hmm.
membership in either soldier or seed.
Yes.
They're both these weird acronyms,
Yeah.
and they're both these kind of anti-hero was the phrase at the time, dour, cooler than what, even though if they
Yeah.
have problems or whatever, like that was their thing. And they both have these particularly unique swords as their kind of iconic
They
weapon.
do. Yeah. Both of them are famous.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but obviously there are a lot of differences. I haven't played enough of 8 to really know who Squall is yet. And also, Squall and Cloud, sort of a similar name. They're both
I
like
mean, they're both
weather.
phenomena. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Weather phenomena. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that kind of mixed it together in my head a little bit. Uh, so it's interesting. I wonder if they were kind of going on some kind of thing. They're decidedly modern takes on Final Fantasy, which was like a high fantasy genre prior to this,
Yeah.
where it was like kings and castles and dragons, and now we have motorcycles and schools
Schools. Yep.
and guns.
Mm.
And so that was all part of that same pivot. And then obviously 9 breaks that sequence, and then 10 sort of merges them together, and 12 also does a little bit.
Mm.
Um, which I think it was better. I think it's better when it does that personally.
When it
But
mixes them.
when it mixes them in the right way, I think the high technology mixed with fantasy and magic is kind of the right mix for the genre, in my opinion. I think when they go too full future is when it's like, what is this? Like 13 did that, and I'm like, what? I don't think I like this.
7 was fairly futuristic, and I would say 8 is gonna be more futuristic. Yeah.
Probably. I mean, we'll see if I still feel that way about that decision with 8. I'm weirdly optimistic so far. I feel like I'm gonna like this one more than the reputation would have me believe.
I mean, of course, there's going to be the story. Eventually, you'll see it as it plays out and how characters
Yeah, I
are.
have no idea how I'm gonna like the story, but I feel as far as the combat system goes, I feel like it has the potential for me to really like what it's doing or trying to do. But I could be wrong, could end up hating it. I don't know.
I mean, at the very least, if you don't like doing it this way, maybe if you go and do it this other way, it'll be fun. Because
Mm,
I was one of those people. Once I found out about how the card game could be exploited, that became my favorite thing. And I
hmm.
basically am not interested in playing the normal battles beyond learning like those card abilities. So I became that
Interesting.
kind of player, yeah. And so even though that could be considered a massive flaw in the game design, I still really enjoyed it. I still really enjoy
Mm.
the game.
Yeah, we'll have to do. To me, also in my mind, for some reason, this game occupies the same space as Vagrant Story because they
Oh,
both had like um role-playing. They both had combat systems that were trying something very new. It seemed like,
Oh yeah.
and there was also an element of both that I was told was like, oh well, in order for you to do the combat system the right way, there's this weird shit you gotta do.
Huh. Yeah.
Which I don't think is actually true of either game. I think that's what people believed. You don't actually have to grind skills in Vagrant Story. That's just what people thought you had to do.
I see.
But we should definitely do an episode on Vagrant Story because
I'd love
that's
to
a
play
whole.
it. Yeah.
I would love to have an excuse to get into that game as well.
Awesome.
But for me, that's kind of it for my time so far. I think this kind of was a pretty good sized episode for a first thing. Now, moving forward, my plan is not to. I'm not going to talk about every little battle I had because that would drive everyone crazy. So it's going to definitely pick up more pace as we move forward. Obviously, we were talking about the mechanics a lot here and my initial impression of them. We're going to get more into story and broader events and, boss fights and broader ideas about the mechanics and how they hold up or don't or whatever, and the visuals and everything as it goes along. We're probably going to skip more and more and more time as we go. We still don't have a firm outline of how many episodes we're going to do. We're basically going to do it until it is done.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that you can get up to, say, an area called Deling City before the next one.
For the next one?
Yeah,
right,
that's like a really
mind.
super good cutoff point. It ends with a CG scene, so you could watch that scene and then say it's the end.
Got it. All right, so I'll aim for that. Right now, I think what we're aiming for is every other week. We'll do one of these, and maybe in between weeks, we'll do a news show on our other channel, Do the JRPG News. So look for that on that channel, I guess, right?
Definitely. All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot that I'm the host.
I guess. Well, hey, I was kind of
taking over there.
Yeah. I guess.
So next goal, anyway, we'll see if we actually keep our promise. But the goal is within 2 weeks, and the goal is to get up to finish what mission you have in Deling City. Man, lots of really interesting stuff happens on the way up to there and in that city. So, and I'm really looking forward to what you're gonna have to say about the different characters. That is whether the characters are likable or not is a very popular topic of discussion for Final Fantasy VIII. A lot of people hate them to death, and a lot of people think they're so great. So I'm dying to see where you're gonna lie on that scale. And I think that does it for today. Anything else, Mel?
No, I think that does it.
All right. Thank you very much for everyone for watching. This has been Turn-Based Memories, and we'll see you guys next time. See you.
Bye.